One Piece chapter 1188. Been waiting for this one. We know why the cover page is nice, okay? And maybe it's a coincidence, I don't know, but we got Sanji reaching out toward the king crown that the turtle is wearing, as if, you know, he's about to become king now. Jimbe got all the sharks saluting to him because he's the first under the sea, right? He's big. He's a big deal down underwater. You forget about that sometimes. But anyway, chapter starts off with the call going through. I guess Joy Boy is sending out a call. He's trying to speak to whoever picks up the call. He's like sending a transmission out to the world. And he could be possibly using not Din Din Mushis, but more like a radio sort of system. Something like walkie-talkies. Okay, so, you know, this is in the past, so stuff was more advanced, obviously, right? And I think that from the sound effects that we're seeing, I think that that's what that's leaning toward. It's leaning toward the idea that, you know, there's a different sort of technology being used as opposed to the Din Din Mushi. So Imu thinking about Joy Boy, obviously, because he's squaring up with Luffy, and he's thinking about how Joy Boy is long dead. Of course, you know, you're not Joy Boy. He's saying, but why do I get reminded of that time? You know, the time when he was with Joy Boy. He was around Joy Boy, right? And Imu starts to shroud his arm in the black flames, okay? And he throws a punch at Luffy, that Luffy dodges with his head. Like we've seen him do many times before. He dodges with his head. You know, his body's in the same place, but his head moves, and then he brings his head back up really quick, and then does an attack or whatever. This time, he couldn't even bring his head back up because Imu's fist bent the corner and rocked Luffy in the back of his head, knocking him further down, actually all the way down, because you see his fist stretching after that, and it's really flying straight down, sending Luffy's entire body head first into the ground, and you know, an explosion goes off. Okay, so immediately when I saw that, actually, you know, I'll speak about that a little bit later after we see Luffy do his next move. So right now in this fight, you can tell, I was wondering, okay, why is Luffy not doing dawn attacks? And at the same time, after he recovered from the explosion, he jumps up with a normal punch, right? I feel like he's like relentlessly trying to attack Imu, and he's fighting a little more reckless than he usually would. Like, you know, it's like he has to do this. And then he can't even rest either, so he also can't rest. He's always getting pursued and chased. Like, Luffy doesn't even have enough time to, like, amass his full power, it feels like. Okay, or Oda is setting something up with having Luffy not use any dawn attacks, seemingly. Even though he's still doing things like Gum Gum Genie, something we've never even seen before, right? And now I could speak about what Imu was doing earlier. A lot of people say, why the hell did Luffy turn into, you know, a genie? And my first thought immediately was, I think Luffy is somewhat trying to imitate Imu, right? Because Imu has the appearance, I thought from when the first time I saw him, his pants were like some Aladdin pants. He looks like he's wearing genie clothes a little bit or something like that, right? Something from that place. And he kind of looks like, he looks like a djinn, right? He looks like a djinn. Coincidentally, Luffy turns into a Majin right here, okay? I think this is Luffy because he also says, I saw your fight with Loki. Oh yeah, I saw your fight with Loki. Like, so I know he's mentioning that because he's saying that, you know, I saw you kill Loki. And Luffy's being real casual about Loki's death right here, by the way. If Loki really was dead, he's being real casual about it. Even though he's, you know, still talking about getting revenge from him or whatever, but yeah, so I think Luffy doing this Majin state is him kind of trying to match Imu in a way, right? He's trying to match him in a way. And apparently the kanji used for Luffy's Majin form, when in the Japanese manga, when it was spelled out, part of the kanji represented God. So the ma part, that would be also demon, and sometimes it's representative of magic, like daima and maho and all the other stuff, right? Not mao, but maho. But listen, anyway, long story short, I think he's imitating and trying to mimic Imu to a certain extent. And the fact that Imu earlier did an attack that is just like what Luffy can do. Like, he's seemingly able to mimic devil fruit powers left and right. But not only that, I think this stuff that he's doing is stuff Luffy might potentially be able to do too. The science of him also being able to stretch his arms out and just like kind of just do what seems like he's pulling things out of his imagination or some sort of realm of magic. Maybe it's the portal to the abyss. I don't know. Maybe these weapons exist somewhere else and he's pulling them out. But I do think that there's a definite connection between what we're seeing Imu do and what Luffy can potentially do with the full Gear 5th power. The things that Joy Boy most likely was able to do when he fought Imu in the past. And another reason I think Imu was dominating Luffy so much is because he obviously fought Joy Boy in the past. So everything Luffy's doing is stuff he's seen before. I think that's why during the fight, his reaction isn't much of a reaction. He's having like a couple of exclamation points and he's getting ellipses, the dots. He's kind of just looking at what Luffy's doing and thinking about it. He doesn't really have much to say. I think the internal thoughts he has is like, he's kind of just remembering, like, I've seen this stuff before. I don't know, that might be a stretch, but I feel like he's definitely seen all of these moves before. That's why they don't matter. And if I'm right about Luffy and Imu's powers and capabilities being similar with this peak of haki and whatever it is, right? This peak of power that these people were exhibiting, well, until Luffy fought Imu now, he no longer feels like he's at the peak. But Luffy might pull, because he's pulled goggles out of thin air before, out of his hair, right? So the fact that he's done that before, and he's been able to grab lightning and do things that were impossible before, he can seemingly do them now. With this imagination, the Nika realm of imagination, the Nika fantasy, right? The gateway to the Nika fantasy, I believe Luffy might be able to pull weapons out of thin air too. What if he does Gum Gum Samurai and he turns into like, he's like mimicking Zoro? You know what I mean? Like, just anything. We don't know. He could be trying to mimic Zoro or Kinemon, but like, I feel like Luffy will be able to just materialize things the same way Imu's doing. The first time I saw Imu do it, it looked like magic to me. He pulled a grimoire out, he pulled a book out in Gunko's body, and he summoned the gun with it. That looked like magic. And Luffy's doing things that are like magical, right? Especially now he's turned to a genie, right? Turned to a Majin. So I feel like this definitely, oh yeah, and then the biggest correlation between these two characters is the fact that when Imu appeared in the state that he's in, he his heartbeat or whatever, the sound of music played and it affected his environment, similar to how Luffy's drum beat and the Nika sound of music, the rhythm, the drums of liberation affect his environment that's around him. Okay? And furthermore, I've been saying it before, but let me say it again right now. Imu's hair, it's white. I believe Joy Boy, if he wasn't a similar race like him, not Joy Boy, but like Nika maybe, or maybe even Joy Boy, if they weren't similar in that sort of way, because Joy Boy obviously is going to have to turn white too, right? He ate the devil fruit. That's how he's going to look like that. I don't know. I just think Imu's hair resembles Luffy's a whole lot when Luffy goes into Gear 5th. The wavy, almost cloud-like shapes. And it's all white, but it's just longer hair than Luffy's, but it's still, they look the same, right? So Luffy's talking about getting revenge for Loki, like I was saying earlier, and Loki ends up saying, "You're an idiot. I'm still alive. Are you dumb? Whatever." He's yelling, and Imu notices Loki. He's persistently trying to kill Loki. He's not letting him go. Okay, he sends 2 blasts at him. 2 of those omen balls at him, and Jimbe gets in front and blocks them, okay? He asks Luffy, do you want me to make sure he's protected? Jimbe doesn't really act unless Luffy gives him a direct order to act, because And you know, I was kind of wondering this too, but I came to the conclusion that this is just the type of character that Oda has made him. He's kind of been like this before. He said it before, where he won't really invoke his hand, and he won't really lift his hand to do anything for them, and he kind of lets them fight their own battles. He's like the elder, and he's just watching them grow, and he's only going to help them if he really needs to, right? So he just lets them, Straw Hats, Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro kind of do their own thing. And him saying, Luffy, do you want me to make sure he's protected? He could have just protected him because they're in Elbaf. Like, why not protect Loki, right? But he's asking, if Luffy said no, Jimbe probably wouldn't have done anything. He would have let Loki die, right? So Luffy said, yeah, go ahead, that's my pal. And that's Jimbe has his orders now, okay? And the little squirrel is looking at Jimbe in admiration. He got sparkles in his eyes, like, you know, because Jimbe's cool as fuck, right? So Nami and Usopp, they're able to see Luffy's fight too. So I think they're all going to witness the fate that he's going to have at the end of this chapter that we all know about, right? They're all going to see this happen too. And somebody's going to try to have to save him, maybe. I don't know. I'm going to talk about that later because there's too many possibilities with how this chapter ended. You know, saying what can come next, I don't know. It's endless. But anyway, you know, they're having a little exchange, wondering who is this guy that they're fighting. Okay, is he going to be all right? Who is that guy? And that's already preluding to what's going to happen because Luffy got stabbed. Okay, but then Brook is kind of saying, we don't know, man. Like, I don't know. The only people higher than the Gods Knights are the 5 elders, as far as I know. And Usopp says maybe he's the Knights commander. And, you know, he's not too far off, right? So Brook, with a ominous panel, says there's no group shrouded in more mystery than the world government. Okay? And he's over there looking at Princess Shuri because Frankie notices Princess Shuri's about to get thawed out. And they mention how Robin and Luffy got frozen before when it comes to dealing with Gonko and what they should do because they've been through this before. Imu notices this conversation. He says Gonko couldn't she not break the ice? You know, she should be able to break the ice. With a man with the afro calling Gonko Princess Shuri, could it be? And he kind of remembers Brook from, I guess, that day, because Imu saw him directly. So he's probably going to just wonder, well, how is a guy still alive? He's probably going to, I wonder if Imu's going to be able to recognize his devil fruit somehow. I don't know. We'll have to see. So Luffy tries to go in for that sneak attack that caught you slipping bullet, right? Right, whatever that dumbass name is. But Imu invokes another omen bell on Luffy. The black flames get on his chest, on his beard, since he's a giant genie now. And they get on his beard. By the way, yeah, there is a giant form for Luffy. Definitely giant. I didn't even realize. So he can go giant. He could have just went, you know, Giganto. He could have just went the regular Giganto form that he did before when he fought Kaido and stuff like that. But he decided to do this. I don't know why. Like I said, maybe he's trying to just imitate Imu to a certain extent, right? In the presence he's giving off. But even his belt kind of looks similar to Imu's, just without the studs on him. He gets a similar looking belt in that genie state. But anyway, Luffy goes back to normal, dodges the stigma blade Imu throws at him, and Imu's launching more of those omen balls out. This is his primary way to fight. Luffy needs a way to counter these omen balls because he can't really fight him. He has to run away from these things that are gonna be like, they're like a surefire hit to kill him, right? And by the way, Imu's pulling his sword out now, but when their exchange earlier, Luffy swung at Imu teleported and kind of disappeared directly behind him. Luffy pulled the same move on Imu, so Luffy is fast enough to keep up with Imu. He did it right here. He just couldn't land the blow. He wasn't fast enough to land the blow after he relocated, because Imu was looking around for where Luffy went. And then he heard, I guess, Luffy's punches winding up, and he started deflecting them. Luffy threw a Gatling directly at him. So, yeah, Luffy's running away. He destroys the balls, the omen balls, and all that sort of stuff. Or actually, no, my bad. He doesn't even need to destroy them, right? Because this whole time, he's running from them. He's running in the sky away from the omen balls, okay? He's running away, and the sky is clear from Imu's point of view because he's on the forest ground, and lo and behold, the blade that he pulls out is absorbing all of the life energy in the area, okay? He's pulling out this blade of nothingness, the void blade, or Vohu, is what the Viz translation says. The Vohu, it's a void blade, right? And I guess that's why it's called the void blade. It's rendering things with nothing. It's taking shit away from things, right? And Luffy's in the sky, he sees the forest dying out, and I guess that's kind of distracting him, I don't know. But he's running away from the omen balls still, and Imu just jumps straight into the air. And he's like not even there visibly. His body is just a bunch of like dash lines. He's moving faster. This is him moving faster than Luffy can perceive, and Luffy's also running away from the omen balls, right? So Luffy sees Imu in front of this panel was kind of confusing, but after reading it a couple times, it's quite clear what happens, all right? So Luffy's running from the omen balls, Imu's teleporting into him like a Dragon Ball character, and Luffy's reacting to that. But Imu he's already stabbing him, and the omen balls hit Luffy in the back on top of that. So he got hit twice. He got stabbed in the stomach, and the omen balls they hit him in the back. And the blade is entering through his stomach, but it's exiting his back, like kind of near his upper back area. So that's what it looks like, at least. He is leaning back, so I don't know. Luffy is fucked up, okay? Blood dripping down him. A lot of people think it could be a fake out. Let's talk about the possibilities here, because naturally, you know, something like this, it can go a couple of natural ways. None of them are guaranteed, but the natural way would be, I guess, Imu kind of considers Luffy dead. Okay, he's not gonna gore, he's not gonna maim his dead body, he's not gonna stab him again and again and again, right? One natural assumption would be Imu throws Luffy away and he thinks that he's dead, so he goes on to do something else, whether it be go to Princess Shuri or Gunko, right? Go to Gunko, or go check on Killingham and Summers, whatever it is. He's gonna go do something else after he thinks Luffy's dead. Or somebody has to help Luffy. Somebody, because they're all going to witness this. They're all going to see it. Jimbe might have to hold Imu off, because Imu is right in front of the other Straw Hats and Gunko. So it would be hard to believe that he wouldn't try to interact or get Gunko when we see her thawing out. And if he gets that close to them, there's no way he's just going to ignore them. I mean, he ignored people before because they weren't a priority. But I doubt that he's gonna just completely ignore them. If he does, that'd be surprising, because there's no way Brook is gonna let Imu take Gunko away, so he might try to square up with him. Who knows, right? Maybe we'll get Brook's Devil Fruit Awakening and he'll get his flesh back and his muscle tendons back, so he gains more power, he gets stronger. He goes back to his prime for like a split second with the Soul Fruit. Kind of reverts back to being alive again, right? In a true way, the true life way, right? But anyway, yeah. So somebody helping Luffy, Imu leaving Luffy there thinking he's dead. Okay. Will Chopper go and try to patch Luffy up? Okay. There's too many endless possibilities. I have a theory I want to make. I think Luffy could eat a Rumble Ball and it would have an effect on him, because we know now that his Devil Fruit is a Zoan. You know, he's in the model of a living human, or I guess a god, right? Nika. Chopper's human fruit was in the model of a human, I guess, but we don't know what type of human. It's just a human. But he's a Zoan. He gives it to his other Zoans. He gives his Rumble Ball to Beppo, who is just a natural animal. I forgot what they're called right now. You know, with all the animals, the minks and stuff, right? He's a mink. So all the minks with their Sulong form and whatnot. I've been saying before that the Sulong form is very reminiscent of the white-haired, red-eye form that Luffy undergoes, and the same thing Hody Jones went through when he tried to heighten his own power through this mysterious drug or whatever, right? So I think there's a correlation between that and then the fact that Luffy's a Zoan. It opens up the potential for him to eat a Rumble Ball. What if Chopper desperately sees this situation, he's not here now, but what if he sees this and he thinks that the only way to try to save Luffy is to give him a rumble ball because it might accelerate his healing or something, so on and so forth, right? Whatever. And he gives him a rumble ball, and that like helps Luffy master Gear 5. Because a lot of people think he's gonna awaken Gear 6. A lot of people are saying it's Gear Death, right? It's gonna be resembling the form that Oda first wanted to give Gear 5, where it was like all black, right? What if Luffy just begins to master this form? But how would that even come about right now? Luffy is stabbed. The biggest problem with the situation is it's really hard to see any way for Luffy to recover right now, soon enough to fight Emu again, okay? What if Luffy goes into a coma? I know a lot of people want a time skip, but I just don't think a time skip would make much sense in any other way. I mean, outside of the, you know, if Elbaf really has a fluctuation of time dilation because it's so giant, and they think they've only been here for what seems like a day, but more time has really truthfully passed. They just don't feel like it because it's so giant and their perception of time is off. I don't know. You know, the sun is moved. It does, you know, it hasn't set yet because it's a bigger place. I don't know. It could be some stuff like that. So the days feel way longer in Elbaf, or actually be longer in Elbaf, right? They could have way longer days, so maybe actually or a week by now, maybe a week or two passed outside. I don't see how it could be that big of a time difference, unless Elbaf really is just magical, and that's what the time dilation is. The whole fact that it's like a magical, or it has some sort of mysterious thing about it, outside of it being big, and that being where the dilation comes from. Other than that, I feel like Luffy going into a coma, if they lose this fight, which I didn't think of until I was, you know, speaking in Discord before, but I have thought, you know, obviously Luffy lost, but if all of the Straw Hats lose and they have to just retreat, or they get left in Elbaf because Emu defeats Luffy and he just runs away, he goes away thinking Luffy's dead, and Luffy's in a coma on Elbaf for a couple of months, right? What if Luffy does go into a coma? Like Avatar Aang when he got shot in the back by Azula with the lightning. That's a way to do a time skip right there. Put the protagonist in a coma, and then all the characters can actually age and stuff like that too. And that, you know, that'll handle a couple of different things. But yeah, I don't know, man. There's a lot of stuff going on. Emu is definitely, I think, in some way he's like a Luffy type of, like, not Luffy, but he has a similarity to Nika and Joy Boy. Looking at Luffy, I think he definitely has some sort of similarity and connection to Nika and Joy Boy, outside of just knowing Joy Boy, because the hair is too similar. Some of the powers he does is similar. I think Luffy could achieve the things that Emu is achieving. He can gain that level of power that Emu is, you know, using and doing, I feel like. Oda is he weirded me out right here, because Luffy in this panel right here, Luffy doesn't have a shirt on, seemingly, right? If you can see this panel, he doesn't have a shirt on, seemingly. And then a couple panels away is when he gets stabbed and his shirt is back. You can see his sleeves. Okay? And I don't know if I don't know what's going on with that. That was just kind of weird. I'm like, whoa, Luffy doesn't have a shirt on for some reason. But in the next panel, his shirt is there. So, yeah. We know Luffy's not gonna die. But if Oda did do that, that would be crazy. But that wouldn't even make sense for the story. Luffy can't die. But the biggest question is, how is this situation gonna get resolved? If Emu doesn't just leave Luffy there and go somewhere else, that's the only way he can have a breather from him and get some recuperation. But then if he went somewhere else, where would he go? Is he going to square up with Jimbe? Is Brook going to fight him because he's trying to take Gonko? Is he going to try to finish off Loki, you know, thus also making Jimbe have to step into anyway, right? Is one of the other giants going to pull up? Harden, maybe Harden pulls up and it's his turn to fight Emu. There are still a couple of giants trying to make their way over here. So maybe Harden pulls up, right? We're gonna have to see. But yeah, like I was saying, that's all I could think of. If I got anything else to say, I'll add it in the comments later. But for now, I'm out.